my name is Kaylee, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to tune your TXD3240 and your TXD10001 with an aftermarket head unit. If you look down in the description, there's going to be a link of the features that your aftermarket head unit should have. Okay, so the parts you're going to need for this tuning process are your tuning pigtails for your front, rear, and sub. And then you're also going to need a small screwdriver along with a digital multimeter, preferably with alligator clips. Just a quick side note, these are included in my amp box, and I made this one from my subwoofer wire. Don't forget, you're also going to need your iPhone or your Samsung to download your test tones. Now, coming over to my head unit, I want to go to my settings. I'm going to go to my sound, and then starting with my equalizer, I'm going to make sure that is completely flat. I do not want anything high, anything low. I want to go to my crossovers, and I want to make sure I turn those off. Front, rear, and sub. You want to make sure you go into your fader or balancer. You want to make sure that those are all completely flat at 0. You also want to make sure you go to any other sound settings, such as like my bass boost. I want to make sure that's at 0. I want to make sure my loudness is off. Sound retriever, all of those, I want to make sure they are at 0 or off. You will also have your outputs for your subwoofer or your rear speakers. Some head units do not have this option, however mine just has the option to turn on my subwoofer outputs. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. And now for your head units, you want to tune your volume to about 85% of the max volume. So the max volume on my head unit is 40. And 85% of that would be 34, so I'm just going to tune it to 35. I'm going to go ahead and turn my volume all the way down. In a previous video, we showed you how to download these test tones to your iPhone or Samsung. It is very important that you download these test tones and you do not stream them because that can produce inaccurate readings. This pre-tuned setup diagram will show you how to prepare your amp for tuning. Please pause here and ensure your TXD3240 knobs and switches match the pre-tuned diagram. In my last video, I instructed you to leave your amp output wires disconnected. We're going to grab these two pigtails. My green and purple one is going to go into the rear connection, and then my white and gray is going into the front. For this part, you're going to need your digital multimeter. Most multimeters come with probes. I'm going to be using alligator clips to make it easier for myself. I'm going to take the gray wires. You're going to connect the red wire to your wire without the black on it. And then you're going to connect the black one to the gray and black wire. You don't want these touching each other or metal because then again your amp will go into protection. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and take our digital multimeter and turn it to alternating current, which is the V with the squiggly line. Okay, so now I can go ahead and turn on my truck. Your blue lights are going to power on your amps, and you're going to leave your truck running during the entire tuning process. Alright, so earlier in the video I showed you how to download your test tones to tune your system. Now I want to make sure that my volume is down for right now because I don't want to play these test tones for too long. They put a lot of stress on your amps. For my tuning process, I also want to make sure that I'm connected to my head unit the way I'm also going to be listening to music, whether it's USB, Apple CarPlay, or just regular Bluetooth. I have mine connected to my USB that also does my Apple CarPlay. I'm going to go ahead and start playing my 1 kHz test tone. And I'm going to turn my head unit up to my new max volume of 35. Now I'm going to go ahead and come over here to my front sensitivity knob and start turning that up until I hit a target voltage of 17.5. Alright, so I got as close as I can to 17.5 on my multimeter, and now I'm going to go ahead and do my rear output. Now we're going to go ahead and connect our multimeter to our rear output wires. You're going to connect your red positive to your purple wire, making sure it doesn't touch anything. And then you're going to connect your black negative to your purple and black wire. Alright, so still on my 1 kHz test tone, I'm going to move over to my rear sensitivity knob. And my target voltage for that one is going to be 15.5. Alright, so now that I have my rear speakers tuned to 15.5, I'm going to go ahead and remove my tuning pigtails. I'm going to wait to plug these into my amp until I'm finished with my subwoofer amp. Okay, so again, I have an aftermarket head unit and it has onboard high-pass filters, so you are not going to be touching any other knobs on your 4-channel amp. If your head unit does not have the high-pass filters, go ahead and contact us and we'll talk you through how to tune your amp. Okay, so you want to make sure that your bass knob is connected and turned all the way up to the maximum volume. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and connect my digital multimeter to my subwoofer wiring, positive to positive and negative to negative. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and switch to my 50 hertz test tone. Start playing that one. Make sure you do not touch the volume on your head unit. All right, so notice I already have some voltage on my multimeter, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn my sensitivity knob up to where I reach a voltage of 46.5. All right, so I got as close as I could to 46.5 on my subwoofer amp. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead, pause my test tones. I'm going to turn down my head unit. And I wanna make sure I delete these completely from my phone because I do not want to play them over my speakers. This is our bass boost knob. It is not used in this setup, so make sure not to touch it. All right, so coming over here to my subsonic knob on my subwoofer amp. If you have a sealed subwoofer box, you're gonna go ahead and leave it at 10 hertz. Now, if you have one of our ported boxes, you're gonna go ahead and put it at the 9 o'clock position or parallel to the ground. And finally, on my subwoofer amp, I'm gonna come over to my LPF or my low pass filter. And I want to make sure that that is still all the way open to the right because I'm going to be using my low pass filter on my head unit. Again, if your head unit does not offer a low pass filter, make sure you contact us for tuning instructions. All right, so now that my amps are tuned, I'm going to go ahead and set my crossover settings on my head unit. Okay, and I want to make sure to turn my rear on, and I want my rear set to 80 hertz and 12 dB. My fronts, I also want that at 80 hertz and a 12 dB roll off as well. And then my subwoofer, I have that at 80 hertz with a 24 dB roll off. So now that my new max volume is 35 or 85% of the max volume of the head unit, you do not want to turn it up past your max volume because that will also damage your speakers and your subwoofers. We will have a separate video on how to make any other adjustments if you want more mid-bass or anything like that.